that whiskey is a well-in-demand category in Alco Bev, right? So how do you maintain your supply chain in terms of meeting the demands in the market?
So basically, we are an imported product. We're made in Scotland. So our cycle works 6 months. By the time I make the order, it gets produced in Scotland. The shipping time is taking 2 months now because of the Gulf War. The ship goes to Africa and comes back again. So we had to rework everything earlier. Our timelines were 3 months. Now it's almost 6 months. In terms of supply chains to different markets, India is one market where alcohol is a state subject. So, for example, a Diet Coke in Maharashtra is 40 rupees, in Karnataka is 40 rupees. But a bottle of Red Label in Maharashtra will be 2000, in Karnataka will be 4200, Delhi will be 1800. So, the prices are different. We have to maintain stocks separately for each and every state. And we are learning as we are going. We are starting 5 states next month, different labeling. So, we are on it.
And coming to you, so tell us, Shivam, that how is marketing a big word for or a big term for your brand? How does Woodsman market itself in the target audience, let's say?
So I think for us as a brand, I think we follow this strategy called LOL, which is liquid on lips, because I think ultimately your truest test for your whiskey is when the consumer tastes it. So every week, at least once or twice, we're out taking over a bar or doing an event or going to a corporate and making sure that the people taste our whiskey. So as much as we try to build the brand on social as well, but I think as if you don't get your liquid out and test it enough, so we have a target for say trials per month. If you do that and actually listen to consumers and what their feedback is and try out different ways of trying the whiskey, that really helps get the word out, because once the people have it, you no longer have to convince them as much, and then they're more comfortable, making that purchase at retail.
Perfect. And let's come to Lalit. Post Shark Tank, how has your experience been in terms of growth of your business?
Sure. So I would say the biggest impact of Shark Tank was the brand awareness, right? And unfortunately, we're not a D2C brand where we can sell directly online, where you see a good spike in sales immediately, right? We have to go through distributors, retailers, bars, and so we've seen that traffic grow on our website, social media, etc. So brand awareness all over the country has been great. In fact, just at the airport and on the plane today, the flight attendants in Indigo sent us a postcard saying, "Congrats, saw you on Shark Tank," which was incredible, right? Like nothing to do it just because I was
They
wearing a
upgrade you?
shirt. Yeah.
He wears it daily, every day.
Yeah.
He wears a shirt every day.
Yeah. So it's been super in terms of we've been getting calls from distributors across the country. Of course, we have to pick and choose where we will be the right fit, but it's been great from a brand awareness standpoint.
So now this question is open to all. I want to ask that the Alco Bev industry is big as it is. So as a new entrant, how is it, like, what was your idea behind entering into this market?
Who wants to go?
Let me start. I think the reason for me, on this panel also, I was talking to them earlier. I'm the only two-time entrepreneur in the liquor space. I've obviously started a wine company way ahead, I think at 2013 or something as such. So from that perspective, I think the space is always welcome for more. The bigger jump has happened post the Bira phenomenon, I think, and post-COVID. I think, there have been tests. I'm sure he's been testing around since 2016, 2017. But I think the market obviously is growing. We've got a great young population, more well-versed. People want innovation. People want newer products. I feel like the hierarchy products have not innovated or found more ways to reach out to the consumers. And so there is obviously space in the market. And I think one of the main things was also we felt that there is gaps in what we are trying to create. There is a market share that's available, products that we think will work. And then comes the whole ideation of pricing, style, structure. All of that is much later. But then you have to have the gut feel that you can go about to execute your idea. And I think that's what's happening. And there's also a lot of interest in backing this. There are funds slowly coming up that want to help you back. People are raising more money. Other than earlier, it was not. It was a couple of taboo subjects. Like people did not want to touch alcohol. There was a time when we were trying to do wines where people didn't want to touch spirits. Touch meat before the Licious funding happened. So there's a lot of time that's gone through innovation and people interest that's changed. I think the element of being an entrepreneur has always been there with people, and that's now coming for, and there is an opportunity that is obviously there for anyone to take. And then as long as your product works, then it works.
What about you, Shivam? What was your idea?
So I think, to be honest, you have to be a little naive to get into this space, because if you know everything, you probably won't. So I think 6-7 years back when I started this journey, I actually traveled for good 2 years, and what looks very glamorous from the outside is not so easy from the inside. And I think like he said, Bira is headquartered in Delhi, and they started taking off and doing craft beers. Whiskey as a category is 6 times bigger than beer, and there was no innovation happening in that space. Of course, there are the brands that exist right even now that are leading the market are late 80s, early 90s. So by no means they've done a brilliant job, but I think there's a lot of scope. There are certain gaps in the market that I think consumers are demanding more authenticity, and that's what we're trying to deliver. So we are a Himalayan whiskey. So the idea is to start a new category of whiskey altogether, right? And not actually compete against or head-on collide against anybody. And so far we've done quite well. We're on a running rate of like 150,000 cases this year. So it's consumers do respond if you're delivering on value. And I think there is space for a lot of people. So I think if people try hard enough and for a longer while, it might be slightly more difficult than FMCG, but if they try a little longer and the value prop is clear, I think consumers do respond.
You tell us, Jitin, since the industry is 6 times bigger than other alcohol categories, what is your take on it?
Basically, for us, it was during COVID that we came to decided starting our own alcohol company where we launched multiple brands. Tequila was supposed to be a first brand, but tequila is still not here because, as Shivam rightly said, alcohol is a different beast. So getting your pricing right, getting your distributor right, getting the packaging right, it's a long journey. And tequila is made in Mexico, so they're slower than India. So it took me 9 months to get my name registered over there. So we were waiting in India to get a name registered over there. So we started working on tequila, whiskey, vodka. The whiskey was the fastest. It took us 3 years. Because British people are, I think, more organized. They are very process oriented. Everything happened much quicker, and we could get the ban down in 3 years. Glenwalk happened because in Maharashtra, government changed the duties for bottle in origin. So we saw a gap. If we could get a Scotch whiskey between 1,500 rupees and we could elevate the Indian premium consumer to a Scotch would be great. So that was actually the change in government rules was the reason Glenwalk was born. And it's been a great journey. We've been hearing our retailers, hearing our consumers every time and trying to innovate on it as well. A lot of our consumers are saying we want single malts and different finish. So that's the next product line we're working on. It's called Glen Journey, and it will come in 3 different funny finishes. Means when I say finish, they are aged in different casks. Some will be finished in rum cask, some will be finished in sherry cask. So that's the next thing we're working on right now.
Perfect. Can't wait for those new ones. But Lalit, let's come to you. What about rum? Why did you choose rum to enter into the Alco Bev industry?
Sure. So after looking at a bunch of different categories, right, we saw that rum was primarily dominated by a couple big brands, but it was also, I mean, after whiskey, the second largest category in India. So it's still something large enough to go after, and an opportunity where premiumization still needed to happen. So we've seen that happen with. We're seeing that happening with whiskey. We saw that with gin. We've seen that with beer. So rum was one of those that would sort of be next in that. And the hypothesis was that's going to be next. So wanted to be there at the right place, right time. Of course, rum goes back a long way in my family's history as well, right? So unlike Shivam, I wasn't as naive. I haven't worked myself in the liquor business, but my family had been in the business for about 50 years or so. And at one point, they were one of the largest sellers of rum to the Army, Navy, and Air Force. So it part of that, bringing some of that family legacy back, has also been a driving factor. And I would say, yes, to enter the alcohol business, sometimes you feel like you need to have a passion for pain. It's not as easy for all the reasons that they said. But yeah, that's why we started that.
There's also one point that Jitin talked about, that was the government restrictions. I want to ask you a question on that. Were there any restrictions, or let's say, what were the barriers that you faced while bringing up Glenwalk?
So as I told you earlier, each state has different laws and a different route to market. So launch every market, first you got to go and understand the market, what is the process, so you first you have to get the label registered over there, that's a process. Getting a distributor there, that's a process. And understanding the margins, how will you get your money back is another, because you don't know those people. How you get the money back is another question mark. So a lot of difficulties. For example, in Delhi, it is owned by the government, so you sell to the government. In Maharashtra, it's completely private. In Karnataka, the distribution is owned by the government, but the retail is private. So you got to study each market, going according. And again, the taxes are different. So, like Shiva was telling me earlier, when he's selling his whiskey in Delhi, he's putting a different marketing message because price is 600 rupees. When he goes to Bangalore, same price at 2400, the marketing message will be different because there's a different audience who's going to pay 2400 rupees. So same thing with us, because my whiskey in Bangalore is going to be 3700, 2 times my Maharashtra's cost. So again, my language will be different to the people when I sell over here.
And coming to you, Ajay, you are a two-time entrepreneur, like you said. So I want to ask that, what would it, like, if in terms, there are some new entrepreneurs who want to start their own Alco Bev brand, what would be your suggestion to them?
Be honest.
I think these guys are all first timers, and I've obviously spoken to them. It's not easy, yes, it's definitely not. But you have to have a mindset. It's very old poker adage. You know, you got to learn to play with the cards you're dealt with. That's the fact. There are going to be rules. There are going to be restrictions. It's not going to be easy. But isn't life like that, right? You got to figure your way out. You have to have the passion for the product. That's the key factor. And then a clear vision of what you want to achieve. Obviously, then comes backing and money and all the other things. But I guess the idea and the concept and the vision is key. And that's as same as in any business. It's not specific to alcohol. It's a fascinating business. I think there's a lot to learn. We are a fabulous market, India by itself, with probably 12 to 15 states being 80% of the overall Indian volumes. You will learn a lot. It's great business. It's by itself, it's a brilliant ecosystem. And it is similar, which people don't know, but the US works on a similar pattern. Each state is different. So it's not like it's different here, it's easier there. It's just that you have a greater consumer subset here, a huge population of youngsters who are willing to try. So you've got it all going as long as you have a clear-cut idea and a vision. I think that's the key aspect. Then securing your right bottling plant and the whole 9 yards. I think people forget certain things which are important. Finance, and I feel the other area is securing a right bottling partner for you, unless you have the money to build your own.
Coming to you, Shivam, your brand is pretty new and yet you're funded and backed. So you tell us, what are the barriers that you face and how is your brand growing?
So Woodsmen as a brand is now 3 years old. So we started off in Himachal. So for the first 6-8 months, I actually did not go out to Delhi or other cities. Like we're in Chandigarh now, and we recently launched in Haryana as well. See, I think it's a high barriers to entry game, right? And I as a person am contrarian. So if I feel that if it's difficult to do, in the longer run you can still defend it. Whereas I can say wake up and make coffee or say tea, and there'll be a ton of other people entering this space. So I as a person, feel that if it's not easy to do, then lesser people will come to the table. and if you make it, then it's more defensible in the long run. So we go step by step. I don't think so you need to rush in this trade. You go step by step, one state at a time, and study the market well. It might take some time, so it will definitely improve your patience, because working with excise does that. You have to learn a language to speak, and once you get a hang, I think it's okay. You can manage.
Let's talk about this same thing. I want to know about the rum industry as well. You tell us, have you faced any barriers while starting out your brand, and how is it going now for rock paper rum?
Sure. So I would say the barriers are pretty much the same across categories as Alco Bev segment. So I agree with all the barriers that were mentioned there. I think the the real way to go about it is you have to have a broader vision, as Ajay said, but at the same time you have to go, figure out where your product's going to fit, why the consumer is having, and spend some time learning those basics and getting them down, because eventually scaling is a matter of money, and you will be able to do that if as long as you got your basics right, and go back to the basics. The marketing class again, 4 Ps, right? Product, price, promotion, place. You got to get that right, and you can do it in a smaller scale and spend less money to do that, and then eventually start scaling from there. So within the rum category, I think some of the barriers we face today are we are going up against two behemoths in the two big brands that do block us in different places, right? Yeah, we go to different bars and restaurants to sell our rum, and of course all of a sudden you'll see 2 months later another brand has given free stock just to kick us out of the bar there, right? Which in the grand scheme of things is like, okay, we're doing something right, that someone else is getting impacted and doing something about it, but at the same time you just have to keep fighting the good fight.
Perfect. And let's talk about marketing. So I just want to know that marketing is a broad spectrum, right? So what aspects of marketing has worked for each one of you? I'll start with you only, Lalit. You tell us that how has marketing aided the growth of your business and made you reach where you are today?
So I'm not going to talk about Shark Tank because that definitely was a once in a lifetime opportunity, right? To be on national TV and talk about an alcohol brand. The biggest, the best marketing, what we found for us, again, as Shivam mentioned earlier, is sampling. So we do a lot of small consumer events, right? Where we get to tell our story. So we're not doing large events where people are just coming to have some alcohol, but you really got to get at this scale, get your story out, right? Connect with the consumer, and that authentic story is what consumers today are really looking for, and they can relate to that. So, as founders, I try to be there at as many events as I can because I want to make sure I can connect, and you get real good feedback at that point as well. Of course, then you want to start getting into watching what are the trends, etc. So sampling is one of the biggest proponents. Of course, then you have multiple aspects like trade marketing, signages. I mean, the old school saying, right? Jo dikta hai, wo bikta hai. That is true. You got to go have your presence known at different bars and retail stores as well. So we've seen some of that, but of course we've been doing it at a much smaller scale as we spent about 18 months figuring that out. In a city like Bombay. So now that we have honed some of those strategies, now we'll start expanding that in the different markets.
Coming to you, Shivam, can you tell us some of the most innovative marketing technologies that your brand has used so far?
So I think we rather kept simple, because I'll tell you, when you go talk to people, right, and you ask a person, why do you like this whiskey, the word that they use is smooth, right? Now what is smooth to you might not be smooth to me, and it's also very difficult to describe taste, right? So say you like sweet, but a sweet can be like, say, from a dark chocolate or a white chocolate. So all these words are relative. So for us as a brand, we are Himalayan, so it's easier to recommend. So if you sort of like us, it's just easy to recommend to the next person, because you're not using a complicated or a relative word that might have different meanings for different people. So when someone likes us, he wants to recommend us. It's a Himalayan whiskey that's made in Solan, and in the north of India, at least, people are well aware that the water quality is great, and 60% of your whiskey is water. So I think that really helps. And in terms of marketing technology, I think in the markets we are in, you cannot really deploy too much in terms of front end, but in terms of supporting your sales function. So I would say, how do you read the market and how? So, for example, Delhi is north, south, east, west, center. How do you read the market and how can you use technology to help your team go to the right spot and do that route properly? I think that's where I think technology helps us as a company rather than the front end, to be honest.
Coming to you, Ajay, we know that you're also into NFTs as well as music and apparel wear. So, how is marketing helping your brand grow?
I think for Salud, the biggest factor and our bread and butter comes from our mass ready to drinks, which kind of is a very mass market segment. And for us, other than the usual that everyone does, like your sampling, your signages, your usual what liquor is allowed to do, because I think we have a lot of restrictions in the way we're allowed to advertise, we had to take a multi-pronged approach. For us to be in the mind space, be it in the PR space, be it in people spaces and in newer spaces for people, because we were also introducing something that was never done in a really long time, right? The RTD place had no innovation since 2001, literally. I think once Bacardi Breezer came, there have been a few brands or nothing, Smirnoff, and there was nobody else there. So we wanted to be that space and be some sort of a lifestyle thing that was similar to what Kingfisher did in a large sense. So for us, I think we use this as an opportunity for us because we created something called Salute Sessions where we use music. We own our DJs, we own our music. We create an IP out of it where rather than paying marketing for an activity that liquor companies do, we execute the whole event through our marketing and sales team. And the goal is that it's a revenue earner for us. Merchandise is designed and styled specifically with stylists so that it's not just a liquor clothing, but it's a lifestyle athleisure brand that people can wear. NFT was that, it was taking us to a global level where we wanted artists. So we got the highest selling South Asian artist to work on our pieces to do it. And then the goal is at some point to be in Web 3.0 where we would own a bar that plays our own music. We have our own, our NFT art there. So it's a full experience center in the Web 3.0. That's a long-term vision that we have. But right now, I think the goal is, as I said, I think it is to do the basics as you have to, because there is a large audience that might not do all of this. But this also gives us a huge amount of, a foothold in the market and a market share that is obviously, I've seen a huge difference because when I did my previous company, the time it took for people to recognize the brand and the time what Salud has taken is probably phenomenal. I think it's a great start for us. I think there's much more to be done. I don't know what else is available, but I guess there is always going to be space for us to try to innovate and be there in the forefront of it.
Talking about marketing, you're already backed by the Bollywood actor Sanjay Dutt, and your brand is called Baba Ka Whiskey. So I want to know how that has helped your brand, A, and B, what is some of the most innovative marketing technologies that you've used?
So basically, we can't advertise alcohol in India. It's completely banned. So how we got lucky is when Sanjay Dutt launched his whiskey, it was no longer advertising, it was a news. So we were covering all the media, right from Economic Times, Times of India, NDTV. We got interviews where Sanjay Dutt gave interviews saying he launched his own whiskey. So the word got out there just like that. We got more than 100 press articles in 9 days. We were covered in international media and everybody came to know about Glenwalk. So it was no longer advertisement, it was just news. So which really, really helped us. We were using more of social media. We got a lot of love from social media because of Sanjay Dutt. There were these guys called Sharma Brothers. They have 400 followers. They made a drunk video saying, Baba, aapne kamal kar diya, 1600 mein scotch leke aa gaye. They got 1 million views and a 1 lakh likes. So like such things really helped us. The organic marketing really pushed us. Obviously, we did our own influencers thing, but the organic really took it to the next level.
And what are some of the future trends that you guys witness in the Alco Bev industry? Like you see, they're almost here and you're ready to adapt those.
I think it's a premiumization. As Indians are earning more, they want to drink better, drink right, not necessarily drink more, but drink the right alcohol. So the next range of products is all premium products we are looking at. We are doing a batcha with another celebrity. We are doing a vodka with another celebrity. I gave her the name by mistake. So it's again more premium products which are priced about 2,000 rupees, good quality, where people can cherish their drinks. That's what we are focusing on right now.
What about you, Ajay?
For us, already this year has been a bit of innovation where we started off with an agave-based RTD, which has just come out called Fiesta. We're playing in the meat segment. But if you look at overall, globally, what's very interesting is going to be the mezcal piece and the rum piece. I think the future is there. There's going to be a lot of interesting work going to happen. I think you will see some fascinating locally made agave-based products because obviously you can't call it tequila, but you will see some interesting rums. I think both in the luxury space, in the mass space. So there's going to be a lot of change, and I think Lalit's there in that story, and these guys are all innovating in that side. But I think those are the two spirits to look out for, other than the natural whiskey that India is always going to consume and never going to stop consuming. So it's going to be interesting. I think for us, from an RTD segment, I think is just innovating more and more brands because we've got bunch more spirits to introduce, and I think then it becomes the next round of innovations as to the other kind of easy, convenient drinking that we look at, which our R&D is working on. We are about 18 months in. For the next 18 months, we've got a pipeline of things coming through. So that's what we focus at. So I think that's going to be what it is.
Perfect. What about you, Shivam?
So I think apart from tequila, which is a global trend, it's definitely coming into India. But I think what we will be focusing on is innovating on whiskey itself. We're trying out a bunch of flavored whiskeys. So I think to get to and be more flavorful with cocktails and younger audiences. So I think we'll experiment with that in a small batch capacity and see whether consumers take to it. So apart from say cask finishes, I think flavored whiskeys is one area which has not been explored by anyone, and I think we'll give it a go.
Really interesting. Moving on.
Sure.
Tell us,
So
Lalit.
piggybacking on Shivam, right? Flavors are trending. We've seen that with gin. We've just launched 3 new flavors of our own rum: a coffee, a coconut, and a lemon. Again, these are flavors that are trending with the younger audiences just coming to it. And I think that has been led by this growing cocktail culture that's growing in India. So besides premiumization, of course, spirits as categories, flavors, you're also seeing this trend of versatility where people want to have spirits in multiple different formats, right? It's not rum and coke anymore. It's not whiskey soda anymore. You want to see it in various formats, cocktails, sipping versions of it, something that India is just sort of learning and understanding what that can be like, right? So those are some of the trends we're seeing.
Perfect. So I think we've covered everything. Let's move on to the audience for some questions if they have any. Okay, let's have just one question.
Yeah, one at the back there.
Hello. Okay. Hi. This was a very insightful session, and especially for somebody like me, a good whiskey drinker. So I'm in the space of logistics. Primarily, any question to any one of you, I did get, Jitin, you have a problem in cross-border. That's what we solve. But otherwise, what is in pan-India to deliver your boxes? What is the challenge you see? It can be answered by anyone.
Cost. I think there's the travel cost. It costs.
Okay.
I think trucking costs and diesel costs are crazy, and so finding that is the biggest problem that we've had. Like sometimes you have places that do certain volumes, and you have an issue trucking. We use Goa now.
Okay.
So one of the biggest challenges we've started facing is as volumes in multiple markets increase, is either you have to find another alternative place to manufacture, or you will have to find cheaper logistics costs for us
Okay.
to make it feasible. Otherwise, especially in mass products like ours, every rupee counts because it changes your GP, your
But-
gross profits.
But I believe most of you manufacture in Goa and parts of, Karnataka.
That's what's happened thanks to COVID and Goa's great policies. But there are people like him who manufacture in, say, Himachal, and if he has to bring it down to Bangalore, it's going to be crazy. It's not
Okay.
going to be physically viable. So that's some things that everyone's looking at to find solutions.
Sure, we can also try working on that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Please
Hi.
keep it really quick and small.
Yeah,
because
I'll keep it very quick. So basically, I'm from a wellness company, obviously something irony. But I basically wanted to ask, since three of you are not in Bangalore right now, right? So what is your expansion strategy? Like, basically wanted to ask this question that when you are expanding between different states, right? What strategy do you guys use as a D2C brand? So yeah.
So to begin with, I think we're not a D2C brand. We're a B2C brand. So I think what I personally look at is how deep is the market for us as at our particular price point. And what is the area? So for instance, Chandigarh as a city is say 114 square kilometers, and say Himachal is 55,000 square kilometers. They're the same market for my price point. So Himachal is 50 times bigger. So how deep is the market? The team size that you need to support, the players in the trade, right? And how adaptive that market is to newer whiskies. So you have to go on on a trip to that state and then meet people, understand and check the accuracy of data that you have, cross-verify that with a lot of other people as well, and then see the entry cost. All right, so if you were to enter, the licensing cost to each state. So and how much time does it take to get that done? So a bunch of these things that I personally look at.
Yeah, I think all those things and the market size, how big is the market for our particular brand, ISK, how much is doing over there? That's just to add one point. I think you covered it all.